Hey, Jess, thank you so much for joining me today. I am super excited for our call because the topic that we're going to be talking about today, I think, is so vital. So tell me a little bit about who you are, uh, what you do, where you are in the world as well, for everybody who's listening.
Hey, thank you for having me. I'm so excited. My name is Jess. I am an online business manager and I specialize in funnel strategy and builds. And I also do launch management for my clients as well as ad hoc project management as well. Um, yeah, I've been doing this for 3 years now, which is crazy to me. And I really enjoy it. I've worked with a lot of different coaches and service providers and finding my niche, which is funnily enough fallen with a lot of spiritual coaches and service providers, people that believe in a little bit of woo, which is just like me. So that makes me really happy. And yeah, that's basically how I've ended up here. And I supported you with your one of your previous launches. So that's how we know each other and we remain in contact since. So yeah.
So yeah, I came across you on social media and I think you just stood out to me. I was needing support with a launch that I was having. And this is why we're having this conversation, because it's all very well creating this incredible offer, getting a sales page, putting it out online, but that's when the work starts, right? Is to market your offer. And I love that you were in the UK. You were kind of in the same time zone as me. We just you're just I just absolutely love your energy. And I loved working with you. So I loved our container so much. So hence I'm asking you to come here and share with us some big tips, because ultimately the core thing here is for people not to burn out,
Mhm.
right? It's not to burn out because they've still got obviously a whole life to lead, other clients to support, and launching an offer can become debilitating sometimes.
Oh,
And
yes.
this is where you come in. You here to kind of be the right hand man, so to speak, and help with everything.
It is, yeah. Launching is something that I am super passionate about. It's funny because I kind of fell into it building funnels. Obviously, there is a launch aspect to it, and just from being in the industry and seeing how things work, launching sometimes gets a bad rap, but I think it gets a bad reputation purely because of how it makes people feel. So what was happening is you have people who go through the entire launch process and they're absolutely broken at the end of it and have zero energy to support the clients that they've now welcomed in. Um, so that's where I found my gap and my passion for helping people do their launches or help them launch and try and take away that back end stress, and just have a plan that we can tailor to their business and their audience, which is really important as we found out about figuring out at what stage your audience is at before you launch. So when we started working together, one of the key things we had to look at was, how warm is your audience, because that is going to depend or change the actual runway you have to launching your product, which is a key thing, which I know you've mentioned, that's missing sometimes with people that you've spoken to as well. So yeah, I'll put it back to you this way. How was your experience learning about the whole audience aspect of it?
Well, it was quite intense. I'm going to say that, because I'd known the theory and how to launch.
Mhm.
I knew that I needed support and someone to help me with all of the tech stuff in the background. Um, but even then, I wasn't aware of how much visibility I needed, and I think my nervous system was not accustomed to that. And I loved it. Don't get me wrong, it pushed me out of my comfort zone. I met an incredible amount of people, and we'll talk about it just now. But our masterclass that we set up, I think it was about 300 people on the call. It was I was overwhelmed by the amount of, like I said, warm audience, ready to buy audience that were wanting to hear from me. And but I don't want to delve too much into that just yet. I would like so let's get into the shoes of somebody who is starting out, potentially their first launch, or maybe one of the first launches they've had. It could be a one-on-one coaching, it could be a group coaching, done for you program, or even a retreat, something along those lines. There's an incredibly well thought out landing page done, sales page, funnels all linked up, payments have linked up. Now the task is, how do they sell the seats and sell out that offer? What would you suggest are the first steps as an online business manager?
So the first thing I always look at before we launch is your email list, because you really want to have an email list, and then also check the activity that's been going on with your email list, because one of the first mistakes that always happen is people do have a great email list, but they only start selling to people when they're launching something. There has been literally zero correspondence up to that point. And people are intuitive beings. They know when something's coming or a sale, you know when someone's launching something, if they only ever talk to you when they're going to sell to you. So it's really key to look, first of all, do you have an email list, and how active have you been? Because the recommendation would be to actually get them warm, in terms of start sending regular emails to them so that they actually get used to you. And not only that, so that your emails don't end up in spam. Which is really important. And then on the flip side of that, if you don't have an email list, my suggestion in the first instance would be to actually include a period of launching a freebie or a masterclass to get people in, so that you can build that list to then market to you in the first instance. So it doesn't have to be very long. Usually our launch went over a 12-week period. Sometimes you can extend it, but a lot of that is just to give you time and space to create these offers, whether it's your freebie or your masterclass, and then actually market them to the list that you've built off the back of that. So that would be the first thing, or port of call, should I say.
No, I agree. And I mean, it's all about strategy and planning in that first phase. How big is your list? How often are they hearing from you? Is there that know, like, and trust factor? I think because you also came to me with some statistics. You said, and I can't remember exactly, it's something like 2% potentially that will buy from your list, which is quite interesting. And they've got to see the same message several times.
Yes.
They can't just say it once or twice. I think it's up to about 7 upwards to be reminded again and again that this offer is incredible and it's a no-brainer, that they'd be crazy not to jump into this offer.
Exactly. So I mean, a lot of the stuff that we worked on, so I'll give you the statistics. It's a crazy one. So based on the amount of people that actually sign up for your freebie or your masterclass, let's just use a masterclass for this example because it worked really well with yours as well. So if you have 300 people, you can expect that only 50% of them will actually attend the live. And you really want to get as many people on the live, because from that, you're looking at about a 5%, 5 to 10%, 10 if you're very lucky, of converting. So that's sort of like the roundabout figures that you're working with. So ultimately, you want to get as many people on that live as possible so that your conversions work out that way. But there's obviously other elements at play, like you mentioned, getting people to see your content 7 times, across the board. You think when you're marketing on social media and you are showing up, especially when you're doing things that you're not used to doing, it feels like you're doing too much. But you got to remember that people absorb content in different ways. So if you've done a post, or if you've done a story or a reel, potentially they've only seen one of those. So you're eliminating the 2 others already. So that's why it's very high and intensive during that launch period, is because you have to keep visible and you have to keep talking about the same thing, kind of like a broken record. But ultimately, you want people on the other side going, that's me. Yeah, that's me. So that by the time you sell to them, they've already actually decided that they want to work with you. You're just giving them an offer to say yes to. So that's basically the aim.
And I mean, I think we had a 2-week launch period time, which I think is a good time. People sometimes have it shorter, and some have it longer, but I think 2 weeks is a good time frame approximately, because there's always an important to have that time crunch, that sense of urgency. And it's the urgency, as well as maybe they're missing out on a special bonus or a early bird price or something along those lines. So one of the things of having that masterclass was to have that urgency on that masterclass. If you sign up within this period of time, you will get, either a bonus or a discount or something of that sort to get those sales coming through.
Exactly, because people have FOMO, right? We all do. We see a bargain, we've got to get it before it runs out. It's the psychology behind it. Some people agree with it, some people don't, but it's effective. And ultimately, the best way is to give people an offer and say that the offer is basically going to be reduced. So you're taking things away as the week goes on. And so the earlier the purchase, the more things they get. So that is a really good way to get people to sign up. And the funny thing is, you've always got people that will take advantage straight away. They like the A-type personalities, they're on it. And then you'll have the ones that need to sort of see you over the week, see what you're doing. They're the lurkers. And then literally the last minute, you'll have 30 minutes left before the timer clocks out and they'll purchase your product. But if you know that, you can expect it, because I think the biggest thing is that disappointment, right? So you get an influx of people to start off with, and then it just dwindles and you might not have anything at all. And I think this is something we spoke about so much, is that first launch you do, don't have these high expectations of what's going to come out from it. Literally use it as something to learn, that you are literally learning from your audience what works. You're qualifying your offer to see, is this something that they want? Is there my messaging? Can I do better? Where did they fall off? Where did I lose them? So that first launch is always like that. And then you build from that. I don't know a lot of people who have had a 10K launch or 20K launch the very first time. But people that have launched a few times will never tell you about that very first launch that was cricket. They never had anybody, but they learned from it. And that's how they got better each and every time they did it. So it's keeping that motivation and that joy and that excitement about your offer, because it's not a reflection on you, that people aren't buying. And I think a lot of people they kind of like start hiding because they're so exhausted from all this energy they're putting out and they're not getting the results they want. So that's where another place where I saw a gap is to try and keep that mood elevated, to get the reasoning behind why this is happening. If people don't have someone to bounce that off, it can be a very grueling process and put people off launching again, which is not what you want to do. You want people to keep launching because it will get better. It does. Yeah.
So I think the reason why I wanted to launch was that I was experiencing a lot of burnout doing one-to-one. So there's a specific time in your business when you need to go to one-to-many. And I've launched so many sales pages for clients. And I'm going to say now there's no winning formula. There's a formula, but there's a formula for you and your business and how you run things and your clients. And we don't know what that is. We can kind of sense what that is, but we don't know. So I think that's the big thing, is that you hit the nail on the head. It's like the pancake, right? The first flapjack or pancake that
always.
you always a little bit like weird. Even though you do everything right, there's always a second or third one that starts getting absolutely, yummy. And then another thing is that people don't talk about is that you really need to be enthusiastic about what you're selling. If there is any doubt whatsoever that you don't back up the promise that you make in that offer, you are going to fall short. People sense that you are not committed and they will not buy. There's an energetic response to what's going on, and people will pick that up. So that's something that people just don't talk about.
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, and that's why it's so important to keep that energy up, and why it's so important to have support during a launch if you need it, because you want to be the best, showing up as the best version of yourself, because people see right through you. And it's unbelievable. You can sense when someone just doesn't believe in their offer. It's, I don't know, it's like, it's magic. But if you're not fully backing it up and you don't believe in it yourself, nobody else will. So you have to really like put everything behind it and really fully believe in what you're offering. And that's why there's so much prep that goes into it, because if you haven't planned it out and you don't know what you're doing, you don't even have the confidence in what's happening in the back end, never mind showing up for what's happening in the front. And it goes back to, it's the same like with an OBM working in a business. If you don't have your operations fixed, it's a different kind of energy showing up and asking for sales, because you're energetically blocking sales when you think, oh, all these people are going to sign up, and then what do I actually do with them?
Yeah.
You know, and it's an energy thing. I mean, I'm all about strategy, but there's definitely energetics involved in not having your systems set up, which is essentially what your launch process is. So
Totally. And I would recommend doing as much as you can before you launch. In other words, setting up those emails, setting up the dates for the masterclass, getting that opt-in for that masterclass sorted, the thank you for the masterclass sorted, the social media posts all set up and ready to go. I think in that 2-week period that we were launching, I mean, I think I was doing hours every day, you know, going on lives on, I think, Instagram, you know, doing lives, creating graphics, because I love graphics as well. So I was doing the graphics part of that. I think you were doing the back end. Setting up affiliates was another thing, you know, getting people to work with you and setting up the affiliates. We did that as well. But I must say it took hours out of my day. I literally wasn't able to do anything but completely launch. And this, I'm talking about the first time launch. I'm sure that the second time, third time, it's a lot easier because you can just repurpose a lot of the things. So it's a lot easier, right?
Yeah.
I obviously am an A-type personality, so I put a lot of more pressure on myself. I wanted to do the sales page, you know, I wanted to do this and I wanted to do that just because I love doing it.
And also it's your zone of genius, so it made sense, you know. So I mean, totally. And like you said, like you were putting in so much work, but now every time that you launch, you kind of know what's expected. It's like, I don't know, you have your first child, your second one's a lot easier because you've already done all those things. You know, you're not worrying or feeling around in the dark and thinking, is this okay? Is it going to work? So yeah, definitely it is intensive that first time, but it's just, if you take the pressure off yourself from trying to hit a certain number and just using it and going into it with curiosity, let's see how this works out. It's a much different energy than, you know, we're going to hit this number, we have to do it this, because you don't want to come away feeling like you failed, because it's never a failure.
No.
Ever. When you look at the numbers, you do the data afterwards, you can see exactly where you were missing the mark. And I mean, our launch plan that we had, it was literally planned to the detail of what needs to get done, you know, this week, what gets done the next week.
Yeah.
But it means that it was spread out over 12 weeks. And essentially only 2 weeks of that was the actual live launch. So yeah, it is a grueling process initially, but yeah, it does get better and easier as you go. A rinse and repeat for your business, should I say? Yeah.
I mean, I am very excited to launch again because I know what it's about, and I'm actually just feeling a lot more confident as well, getting online, becoming visible. But I do want to share 2 things that I did that I think I messed up. And I'm saying this and sharing that out of transparency because I want people to learn from my mistakes, and also just to acknowledge that I did the best I could. And the next time I launch, I will learn something new. And then the next time as well. So the 2 things I feel that I messed up was that when I had my sales page, I didn't have a straight to the buy now. I had a application to become a part of the group program. And I think that one step stop people. So I made people go through hoops in order to do that. And I think that's very valid if you have a huge audience and you have a limited amount of people that are able to be in this container. I didn't. This is my first time, and I made that mistake. So I think they were starting to do the application process,
and falling off,
but they were falling off. And I was like, and you kind of need to get people when they're feeling inspired. They probably won't come back the next day to complete it.
Yeah.
Probably not. So that is the one mistake that I made. So if you are in that position, don't let people jump through hoops. Have those buy now buttons. Be very clear on the price. Don't have apply to work with me or set up a discovery call unless it's a very, very high event or high ticket item and you are very established. Like if you are starting out in the one-to-many field, don't let them have to jump through hoops. That's the one thing. Yeah.
Yeah, take my card details. It's like when I make purchases, it's like those inspirational purchases, last minute, you're lying in bed at night, can't sleep. Yeah, let me just pop my card details in and make it quick.
Yeah.
I really don't want to be sitting doing an application form if I'm ready to buy. I want to give you my money. Make it easy for me. And that's the key thing. But it's all a learning experience.
It's a learning curve. So that's the one thing I would say. Don't do that. Be transparent about the price and make sure that there's a buy now button. Another thing, we just off the topic quickly, a lot of people make the mistakes in the sales page as well about having other things on their sales page. Download my freebie, check out my social media. And this is like no, because if you are directing people on social media or on your email marketing, come to and look at my sales page. All they need to do is buy now. That's one thing they need to do. We're not wanting them to now go down a rabbit hole and look at your social media and see where you went on holiday and all of that. We don't want that. We just need to buy now. And I think people do make that mistake. So just to forewarn people.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I mean, a good example of that actually is, so my methodology is very much have a passive income stream and obviously live launching as well. They're a really good combination to run a successful business, which you'll know. The biggest thing though is with the sales page is that yes, people do try and add in sign up for my newsletter at the bottom, which is taking people away. You can add that in your funnels. You can integrate that on the funnel side of stuff. For sales pages, it's just very direct. And the best way to do that is to go look at all of the big names. What do their sales pages look like? There is literally no fluff. And if there is anything else on there, it's another offer that they're trying to sell you into, which is either upsell or a downsell, and that's it.
Yeah, exactly. And then the other, I wouldn't say a mistake that I made, but what I learned very much in that time that I launched up to now is my messaging. The brand messaging and the offer messaging, I feel I was giving too much. I was trying to solve all of the people's problems. And that is also when people stop paying attention. So I know that in order for me to sell an offer, or anyone who's listening to sell an offer, figure out what is the core problem that you are solving and just stick to that one. So, and your messaging, I read this actually a couple of days ago, your messaging should be about the same as a third grade. Like that is the kind of simplistic messaging that you need to convey, because people are becoming, I think, as we become more and more consumed by social media and even with TikTok, and there's just so much going on, people don't really read sales pages or read into things as we did, say, 5 years ago. It's become a lot more quicker. So you have to grab that attention, especially if it's a cold audience. You don't know them that well yet. And it's a know, like, and trust factor. And you need to up your game in order to be very clever with how you convince people that you are solving their problem. and that they would be crazy not to work with you and not to sign up. So your messaging needs to be very, very fine-tuned. It really needs to go to the crux of that problem. So this is a big thing in marketing, and a big thing in selling, and a big thing in branding. And I have spent a lot of time delving into this because I think it's fascinating, the psychology of people that are buying, and what is going to make people buy authentically. Again, I'm not into this big bro marketing and pushing people, and it's got to be an authentic relationship, and a one that serves both parties.
Exactly. Yeah. I think it's that feminine touch to things that people are gearing towards now more than bro marketing tactics.
Yeah.
Obviously it has its place in the world, but I think people are very much like, how does this make me feel now?
Yeah.
Rather than, because there is so much noise out there and so much competition, the only real way to discern between people that you want to work with and you don't want to work with is, how is this actually making me feel right now? And you're right, it is quick. We have such limited attention spans right now. And one of the things, even with me, with funnel marketing as well, is people using really big fancy words. And it's not because you're not using simple words because you think that your audience is stupid or anything like that. It's just, like you said, it's that attention span. And if we can understand the language straight away, rather than trying to build the picture around what it is you're trying to explain, it's much easier to buy. It's much easier to come to a decision. I can't tell you how many people I've worked with that have said to me, what is that word? Like, what does it even mean? Like, I don't even know why it's in there. And I'm like, exactly. Why is it in there? If you don't understand it and it's fancy and, yes, it could be on brand and be very, like obviously in mine is very spiritual and whatever. But if your audience has no idea what it means, what is it even doing in there? So definitely messaging is key, and clarity and simple. And I think the messaging, if you can get it to relate to people, again, it's that head nodding thing. Like if you can get somebody to nod their head and go, oh my word, that's me. Yes, I need this. Oh gosh, yes, I want to be there. That is what you're aiming for. And you don't need fluff for that. You can relate to somebody by just being authentic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because ultimately the bottom line is that people are going to buy from you, right? Then I'm going to go out on a limb here. They're not buying your product or service. They're buying you to help them solve a problem. Like that is what they are doing. And so you have to be very committed to knowing what that problem is, probably deeper than they understand themselves, and being able to solve that. So let's just say, for example, even as we introduced you earlier on today, you do funnels, you're an OBM, but what I mentioned in our introduction was that you help people like that don't burn out. That's what you do. So that is the thing that's going to hook your audience, for example. And that's the thing that you're going to talk about, and I know you do, versus, oh, I can do this, and I can do the back end, and I can do tech, and that's kind of the how. It's always the why. You don't want people that you work with to burn out. Same in my business. Like, why does someone want a website? Like, no one wants a website. Why do you need one? Well, we need a website to sell our stuff to people who want our stuff. So it's a selling process. It's a way to sell authentically. So that's how I then message and market my offers is I can promise you working with me will get you, more sales. So that's to help people understand the crux of what it is that they are actually doing is going to get them more sales and more authentic sales as well.
100%. Yeah. And I mean, I'll just say as well, like from a messaging point of view, it's really interesting because a lot of the time when we talk about how we can help people, we forget about the bleeding neck. So a lot of times people will think, oh, this is my problem and this is what, but we know as service providers and coaches what the bleeding neck is. And that's what we need to educate people about within ourselves, to say, yes, you're feeling this, but this is why. And you're telling them that it's a different way of educating people within your sales pages. You're feeling this, this is why, and this is how I can get you from A to B. People don't really realize that sometimes they're the biggest cause of their own, their own situation. So definitely with sales copy and funnels, launches, that type of stuff, that's always something that I put out to my clients is let's educate them on what their bleeding neck, is, so that they grasp it, because that's just another way for you to put forward your authority in your area of expertise, which you do beautifully, obviously, with your branding and your brand messaging. But that's sometimes a key that people, on their sales pages and with their launches and stuff, they rattle off all the ways they can help you and what they're going to get out of the course. But actually they want to know how are they going to feel at the end of it? How are you going to get them there? So yeah, really important.
So if anyone's needing a bit of help on that, have you heard of the expression, the so what theory? Like, so what?
No, I haven't.
So I probably won't be able to articulate this very well, but it's ask yourself, I'm offering this course to solve this problem. So what? So what? And then you go deeper and deeper into why are you doing that? So what? So what if someone has a website so that they can become more visible? So what? Like,
I love that. It's so clever.
being visible will get them more exposure to more people. So what? It will make people probably position them as an expert. So what? So that and you can go deeper and deeper down that. And then you can go into the actual core of why it is that you're doing it. And that's where you sell from.
Yeah.
I
love that. I'm going to use that now. I'm stealing that.
Use that one. It's actually very, very interesting, because I think people do get stuck on the marketing. And, it's tough because coaches and healers and other service providers, and we have so much on our plates. We're doing our craft and our art. We are building these programs. We're strategically planning our business. We have families that we are dealing with at the back end, right? And then now we have to be messaging like experts as well on top of that. So there are all these ways to kind of blend them all together. But I think once you really get clear on that messaging, and that is the big thing that's going to shift, I think, your selling. I do believe that the clearer your message is, the more people are going to buy your offer. Like
100%.
Without too much fluff. Like, keep it simple, keep it easy. You don't need these long sales pages unless you have a product that is a lot of money. We're talking 5K upwards of an offer, I think. I think generally people just feel good about working with you.
And I mean, the best thing to think about is yourself. Sometimes in those situations, you think you have to do a client profile and figure out who you're speaking to, etc., but ultimately you're speaking to yourself a couple of years ago, or who you are even now, depending on what it is you're selling. But just look at how you go about looking at a sales page, or your how you purchase. What is it that you're willing to go through, and what is it that you're not? What makes you want to sell? And sometimes it just takes spending an afternoon going through other people's sales page and be like, oh, I like this, or no, I don't like this. And that introspection will give you a lot of the answers that you're actually looking for. I think people overthink it as well, in terms of, should I do this? Should I do that? Oh, that one's doing that. Just look at yourself sometimes. That's the best answer, really.
It's true. Like you said, you are really selling to soul-aligned clients who are probably having exactly the same issues that you had a couple of years ago. Jess, thank you so much for your time. Can you please share with us how we can find you? And obviously I'm going to give you details at the bottom of this video as well.
Awesome. I am on LinkedIn, just Jessica Segalla, and then I am on Instagram. It's Jessica Segalla. recently been back there. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun. And I'm also on Facebook as well, and also just under my name.
Well, thank you. I absolutely loved our conversation, and I know
Thank
that
you.
we're going to be chatting off this call about my next launches. So thank you so much for joining.
Amazing. It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.